Good night of Shabbos, Shalom Aleichem to everyone. It's the Shabbos before Yudalit Kislev, the Rebbe's and the Rebbetzins Yom HaNisuin, their anniversary day. They got married. And last year, around this time, a few weeks later, I had the privilege of being in Varsha and Warsaw. And I actually went to the location where the Rebbe had his chuppah, where they say it is, and also where he had his Suda. I believe I made videos and pictures and shared some of it. But it's also the Shabbos before Yud Tes Kislev, and the Shabbos after Yud Kislev, so it's definitely a great time for Farbrengen, a great time for Hisaydus, arousal, and tshuva, and simcha, and Moshiach. So I'm going to share with you something that's kind of out in left field to this topic, but we'll see how it comes back. And I was told this story just this week by the person it happened to, and this is Reb Shmuel Dishon of Stolin in Borough Park. Reb Shmuel Dishon has been a Stolin representative for years. He, along with the Pilchuk brothers, were like the Mr. Stolin in America, working for the Stolin Rebbe of Eretz Yisrael. In 1956, Reb Shmuel had come to America with his mother. They settled, I think, in Far Rockaway. And they had a relative who said, send your son, he was a teenager, send him to Yeshiva University. And he was about to go there. But before that, his mother said, let me talk to a relative. She spoke to a relative, and the relative said, there's someone named Abraham Pam. Rabbi Avram Pam, the Rosh Hashiva, later became Rosh Hashiva Torah Vodaas. Let me discuss it with him. And she discussed it with him, and he said, look, I'm in Torah Vodaas. It's a great yeshiva. It's closer to Far Rockaway than, Yeshiva University in Manhattan. And it's a more traditional yeshiva, more like the European yeshivas in a way. So I suggest you send him there. And she listened, and the rest is history. That was his beginning, and caused him to have a frumkeit, a chassidishkeit, as I've discussed in my book, Torah Vodaas and Lubavitch. So Rabbi Dishon told me, in Elul of 1956, he was at the airport with a few of his friends, being Mekabel Panim, greeting one of their Rosh Hashivas, Rabbi Nasanel Quinn. And when they got there, he noticed the Rebbe there. And he told his friends, that's the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And they said, what are you talking about? He says, I'm telling you, he's a young man, but that's who he is. Let's go over and say shalom, give him shalom. So they went over and they gave the Rebbe shalom. And the Rebbe asked them, what are you doing here? In those days, it wasn't even called JFK, it was called Idlewood Airport. It was before JFK, it was 1956. So they tell the Rebbe they're here because they're here to greet Mekabel Panim, their Rosh Hashiva, their Rebbe, Rabbi Quinn. And the Rebbe says, Wer? The conversation was in Yiddish. Wer? Rabbi Nasanel Quinn von Torah Vodaas? Rabbi Nasanel Quinn of Torah Vodaas? And they said, yes. He said, the Rebbe said, Ich ken him. I know him. And then they asked the Rebbe, like, what are you doing here? The Rebbe said that he's here to greet a relative. And they noticed that the Rebbe Tzimchaya Mushke was there as well. And her sister, Hannah Garari, was also there. They all came to greet Rebbe Tzemach Dina Schneerson, the Frierdiker Rebbe's wife's brother, Rebbe Tzia Schneerson, who came from Tel Aviv. The story is, it goes a little further, that initially they wanted Reb Shalom Chaskind to drive them and take them to the airport. And they made up a time, but for some reason he didn't show up at their house. So they put a note on their house. Shalom related this later, and it said, "We left." And Kachava, that's the way it was. They came to the airport themselves without Shalom Chaskind to greet Rebbe Tzia Schneerson. This Rebbe Tzia Schneerson was the son of Rabbi Avram Schneerson. Avram Schneerson, Rebbe Tzemach Medina's father, the Frierdiker Rebbe's father-in-law, lived for years in Kishinev, in the Romania area. Sometimes it was this part of the country, this part of Europe. And Rebbe Tzia was his son. So the Rebbetzin and the Rebbe, and they sent money, they sent a ticket for him to come, because he had just come to Eretz Yisrael from, I think, from Europe. And then he came one or two times later as well. But this was the first time he came, was 1956, Elul 1956. I heard from Rabbi Eber from the liquor store in Crown Heights. He told me that during the 50s, the yeshiva was being supported, the Achei Tmimim yeshiva in Tel Aviv was being supported by someone, and they didn't know who. They had Baruch Hashem food, and they had their needs. They found out later, maybe it wasn't the 50s, it was the 60s, the 50s to the 60s. They found out later that it was this Rebbe Tzia Schneerson who quietly supported the yeshiva without anyone knowing. This is what he told me. People don't know this, and it's an important piece of information, I believe. Anyway, so Reb Shmuel Dishon, after he had this exchange with the Rebbe, he went back to wait for Rabbi Quinn. And he said to himself, wait a minute, the Lubavitcher Rebbe is here, and I'm not going to ask him for a bracha? So he quickly dashed back to the Rebbe, and he said, Lubavitcher Rebbe, seid ihr sehr gut, please, git mir a bracha. And this is what the Rebbe told him. Listen carefully. The Rebbe said, Av dvorim shelamayla min hateva, av dvorim shebeteva, regarding natural phenomena, dafte minish haben, you don't need me. Every Yid, every Jew, prays 3 times a day, deals with nature, and that's fine. Ivilt a bracha, you want a blessing, for dvorim shelamayla min hateva, for things that are beyond nature. So der Eberster benchen, may Hashem bless you, und seid gesund. That was the Rebbe's answer. This is what Reb Shmuel Dishon repeated to me this week of the conversation he had with the Rebbe in 1956. So if I may suggest, what the Rebbe is saying, what do you need a Rebbe for? What's your Dalet Kislev all about? What's the Chuppah and Kiddushin, the anniversary about? L'mayla min hateva, transcendence, things that are not the norm. A Rebbe connects us and is beyond the norm, transcending the norm. So therefore, when we're in this period between Yud and Yutes Kislev, with Yudalet Kislev in between, we must understand that we're talking here about a very different type of issue. We're not talking about a natural phenomena, a good rabbi, a good counselor, even a good Rebbe, a holy tzaddik. No, we're not talking about holy tzaddikim. There are holy tzaddikim. We're talking about an individual who represents transcendence, an individual who has a connection to the L'mayla min hateva. And therefore, if chas v'shalom someone is not well, or someone is hurting financially, and there's no way out, this is where a Rebbe makes a difference. Not only this, of course, but if you have the connection to a tzaddik and to a Rebbe, and in particular to our Rebbe, post Gimel Tammuz, 26, 27 years, and you understand that time is relative, and you understand that the Rebbe's brachas and the Rebbe's marriage is happening this coming Yudalat Kislev. He's going under the chuppah again. What am I saying? Am I out of my mind? What do you mean he's going under the chuppah again? The concept of a chuppah, the concept of tenoyim and ksuba and chuppah and marriage and simcha is all a reality that happens now. May Hashem help that we all do with this and live with this in a way that will have only simchas, bekarev mamish, good Shabbos, and a good Yom Tov.